Hi, I'm Neil Kelleher. In this video I'm going to talk about some different variations of side plank. In general, the basic focus will be on keeping the spine long while doing all of these variations, and one reason for keeping the spine long is it's a very simple way to activate or add tension to the midsection. I'll also talk about some simple actions you can do for the legs for making the legs stronger, particularly before lifting another leg. Here's a quick preview of all the variations that we'll be doing. So, side plank on the knees with the knees bent. Simple actions for the shoulder. Also some simple hand variations you can do as a warm-up. Side plank with the top leg on the floor and lifting the hand. Side plank with the top leg on the floor and lifting the bottom knee. And side plank on using the bottom leg. Anyway, let's get on with it. So one of the most basic actions I like to do for side plank as a sort of warm-up is to practice using the shoulders. So this can be either before or after the spine, but since I haven't done any videos on the shoulders for a while, let's start off with the shoulders. So on your knees, so knees bent on your side actually, on your bottom leg with the knees bent, focus on the supporting arm shoulder, use your shoulders to lift the rib cage, and then relax. And something you can do here, you can vary the distance between the hand and the hip. So use the shoulder to lift the rib cage, so you're moving your rib cage relative to the shoulder girdle. Relax, lift the rib cage, and then relax. And if you find this difficult, something that you might want to do is practice with the arm lifted with the hand not on the floor. Try to move your shoulder towards your ear, then away from it. And while you're doing this exercise, memorize the feeling of your shoulder moving relative to the rib cage. So repeat that a few times. So from the back. So once you get that, once you have a feel for your shoulder, try to do the same thing, but instead of your shoulder moving relative to your rib cage, move your rib cage relative to the shoulder, so it can feel like you're pushing your rib cage away from your hand. And the feeling is a little bit different because your hand is fixed in place, but doing this exercise should help you get the basic idea. Now, something else that I've recently started playing with, and you might want to try this occasionally, is to vary the hand position with the hips on the floor at the very least. What you can try doing is turning the hand all the way in, placing the hand on the floor. And if your wrist is too uncomfortable, you might find it easier if you move the hand closer to your hips. If you want to stretch the wrist a bit, you could move your hand away from your hips, but from there do the same thing. Lift the rib cage and lower. And again, go slowly. For all these exercises, go slowly and smoothly, particularly the first time. So if there are any problems, you can stop. You can make any changes necessary so that it doesn't hurt while you're doing it, or it doesn't cause any problems. So lift and then lower. And then from there, turn the hand the other way. So fingers pointing back, maybe even inwards again. So this might be a little bit stressful on the elbow. Try adjusting the hand position if it is. If you find it too uncomfortable, then try unwinding a slight amount. So pointing your fingers slightly out if it's too much, and then you can work towards having the fingers pointing back. But here again, same thing, lift your rib cage and then lower. And then something else, so repeating that a few times, so fingers pointing in, fingers pointing out. Something else that you could then do, make your spine feel long. So lumbar, thoracic, neck. So neck and rib cage in particular, because you're trying to use your shoulder. And then from there, lift your rib cage, keeping your spine feeling long. And then relax. Spine long, lift, relax. Spine long, lift, and then relax. And then from there, repeat that a few times on this side and then the other side. And then from there, what you can do, lengthen the spine, lift the shoulder, and then from there, slowly lift your hips, keeping your spine long. If you wanted to, you can reach the top arm over your head. Now, something that you might want to do, so these are variations, so progress, so first the shoulder, then spine long, and then the shoulder, then spine long, use the shoulder, and then lift your hips. Something you might want to do is bend your spine to the side and then try to make it long. So open the top side of the spine, top side of the body, make your spine long, lift the rib cage, and then from there lift the hips, keeping the spinal side bend, keeping the spine long, keeping the shoulder open. And what you could do if you wanted to, you could hold this position for a few breaths, for a few moments, then relax and then repeat the steps, come back up again. One reason for repeating the steps, so spine long, open the shoulder and then lifting up, is so that you get used to the actual exercise of lengthening the spine, of using your shoulders. So you get used to those actions. It's sort of like giving you experience. So rather than holding the pose, which is also beneficial, but particularly in the beginning, if you repeat the actions of lengthening the spine, relaxing it, lifting your chest, relaxing it, you get more experience in those actions. You'll learn them faster. You'll get actually moving in and out of the actions. It gives you a better feel for the action, because you can feel when you aren't doing the action, i.e. when you're relaxed. You can also feel when you are doing the action. So for example, making the spine long, or bending it to the side, or using your shoulder to lift your rib cage. You can get a feel for all of those, and that makes it easier to maintain the actions based on feel, because you've had the experience. Now next, another variation of side plank. So for the next version of side plank, you can go onto one knee with the other leg, like so. So I like to call this top leg side plank, because generally you'll be using the top leg to support the body, and then if you like, lifting the bottom leg. But before we go to that, one fun exercise I like to do, and this goes back to the lunging exercise where I was teaching lifting the hands while keeping the body still. You can do the same thing in this pose. Try keeping the torso still, maybe press down through the knees so that your hip has some activation. Try lifting the hand without moving your body, so without doing this. So the basic activation can be press the knee down so your leg feels strong, feel the hand relax, and then lift the hand, and then hand back down. And if you can't lift the hand, what you can do is move your body relative to your knee away from your hand, so it's a bit easier to lift the hand. If you want more of a challenge, you can try moving towards the hand. So this leg becomes very light, so it's only lightly touching the floor. So basically all you're doing is balancing on your knee and shin, or if you wanted to, just on the knee. But anyway, going back to the original exercise, press the knee down. What you could do, press the knee down, lift the hand, relax, press the knee down, lift the hand, relax. Something else you could do, lengthen the spine, press the knee down, lift the hand. Lengthen the spine, press the knee down, lift the hand, relax. Now something else you could do, so pause the video, repeat both sides so you can remember that, have some fun with it. So don't just rush through it, just take your time, take about a few minutes if you like to do this exercise, and then move on to this one. So for the next exercise, what you can do is lift the hand and then from there lift the rib cage up. So it's two distinct steps so that you can recognize the difference between lifting the hand and lifting the rib cage. So same thing there. Lengthen, lift the hand, lift the rib cage, and then relax. And actually I forgot the knee. I'd suggest the knee, pressing the knee down is an important point to make the hip feel strong. So I'd suggest that making the spine long and pressing the knee down, those are the two most important steps for this exercise. So spine long, press the knee down, lift the hand. From there, lift and lower. Spine long, press the knee down, lift the hand, lift the rib cage, and then lower. So again, if you didn't do it before, pause the video, practice first, make sure you can feel your spine, make sure you can feel your spine when you make it long. Also make sure you can feel your leg when you press the knee down. As a good example, lift your hand, notice the tension that occurs in the thigh or in the hip. And then what you can try doing is reduplicate that action, or feel the way your knee presses down when your hand is lifted, and then press your knee down prior to lifting the hand so your thigh activates, and then lift the hand. Now another variation that you can do, so practice, so most important actions, lengthening the spine, pressing the knee down, and then lifting the hand. From there you can try lifting the rib cage. Another action you can do, spine long, press the knee down, lift the hand. Try moving your rib cage down and then coming up. So that one's a fun one. In the class when I was first teaching this, I would try and touch my head to the floor, and you can try that as well. But do be aware when you're doing that, if this hip feels compromised, do be cautious with it. You might want to leave it out. But if not, spine long, knee pressing down, you can try and slowly lower, maybe touch an elbow to the floor, then gradually work at touching the head. And I was cheating a bit. I was resting my arm against my leg. So going back to top leg side plank, one action you can do, most people do side plank for the abs, probably for the shoulders. What you can then work at doing is lifting the bottom leg. And something that you might want to do, particularly if you're not used to this exercise, work at pressing the top foot down. So if you press the top foot down without allowing your hips to lift, you may notice that you get some inner thigh activation. So once you get the inner thigh activation, you could try pressing down enough that the bottom leg relaxes and then lift the knee. So you can practice that a few times, practice on one side and then the other. Then what you can do, lengthen the spine. So maybe bring your rib cage a little bit closer to the floor so you bend your elbows so you can get a bit of a side bend in the spine. Make the spine long. From there, use the shoulder, press the hand down into the floor, and then lift the leg. And if you wanted to, if you found your top leg hip uncomfortable, press the top leg foot down first and then lift the leg. So steps, spine long, use the shoulder, lift the knee, relax. Spine long, use the shoulder, lift the knee, relax. Once you have that, spine long, use the shoulder, press a foot down, lift the knee, relax. Spine long, use the shoulder, press a foot down, lift the knee, relax. I should point out here, if you find your hip really uncomfortable, then that should be the first action you practice. So spine long, press a foot down, lift the knee, relax. Spine long, press a foot down, lift the knee, relax. And then from there, once you have that, spine long, press a foot, spine long, shoulder, foot, lift the knee, and then relax. those are a couple of different sequences or activation sequences you can play with. So again, going back to a video I did a while back, focusing on memory, make the number of steps short enough that you can do the actions easily. So for example, if you're not used to the movements and you want to focus just on the movements, but you also want to remember them without having to think about it, just make your spine long, use your shoulder. Or make your spine long, use your foot, press your foot down. Focus on those actions first. Because it's only 2 movements or 2 actions, plus a third action, maybe lifting the leg, doesn't take much to remember that, so you can focus on the actions themselves, actually feeling muscles activate, actually feeling your spine lengthening. And then from there, working at, say, lifting the bottom knee as smoothly as possible. Once you get used to that, once it's in mid-term memory, then add more action. So if you wanted to, spine long, shoulder, leg, and then lift the knee. And this applies to all of the exercises. Work within your short-term memory so that you can focus on feeling your body while you're doing the movement, so you can focus on feeling your muscles activating. And you might find then that another way that you can think about it is that it gets you out of your thinking mind. It gets you a little bit closer to the mind state called flow. You can just focus on doing the exercise without thinking about how much you dislike it. You can focus instead on the sensations that are within your body. Now next, let's look at side plank with the bottom leg. For side plank with the bottom leg, probably one of the most basic actions I teach for this is stabilizing the bottom foot. Because in side plank, whether your feet are together or the top leg is lifted, the bottom foot offers it's a lot wider than your hand. So your bottom foot offers a broad base of support. It makes it easier to stay balanced. So if you want to do anything to make balance easier, and you could always do side plank with your feet like so, one foot in front of the other like this or like this to make balance easier. But why not work at stiffening the foot? So something easy to do to stiffen the foot, try spreading and lengthening the toes. Notice tension in the foot, notice tension in the ankle. Practice spreading and lengthening the toes to make your foot feel stiff. Memorize the sensation of a stiff foot, first like this, then perhaps like this. Try stiffening the foot. And then another thing that you can practice is stiffening the foot, then noticing pressure on the heel and then on the forefoot. Try to make pressure, try to press down evenly through the front of the forefoot and the back. So something that you could try doing is with your top leg lifted, move your top leg forward. Notice the bottom leg, forefoot pressing down, move the top leg back so the heel presses down. So top leg forward, so your weight shifting forward. So you may notice pressure in your hand. My hand's in that position because of the wall. But from here, you may notice more weight on the forefoot, moving the leg back, tend to fall back, so your heel press down. So that's something that you can practice with the idea of once you're up in side plank, to change the way that your bottom foot presses into the floor. Try shifting either your top leg forward or back, or your hips, even better, your hips forward or back, to change the weight distribution in the foot. What I'd suggest, lift the hips, make the foot strong. Try shifting your hips forward until the back foot lightly touches the floor. Lift it, and then down. Foot strong, shift your hips forward, lift, and then relax. Foot strong, shift forward, lift, and then relax. So practice that on both sides. Next, what you can do is add spine lengthening. So foot strong, lengthen the spine. Shift forward, lift, relax. Foot strong, lengthen the spine. Shift forward, relax. So repeat that on both sides, and then what you can do after that is add the shoulder. So hips lifted, foot strong, lengthen the spine. Use your shoulder to lift the rib cage. Hips forwards, relax. Foot strong, lengthen the spine. Use the shoulder, hips forwards, relax. Foot strong, lengthen the spine. Use the shoulder, hips forwards, and then relax. And that would be it. So that's one basic sequence of side plank exercises that I like to use. A couple of points for that, 1 point for that last side plank variation. You can try varying the distance between your hand and your foot if your wrist is uncomfortable. If your wrist is maybe slightly further away or maybe closer. Something else you might want to do, you might want to lift the shoulder first, lengthen the spine, stiffen the foot, and then lift the foot, particularly if you find you're getting wrist problems in that variation. I'd suggest the main point for dealing with wrist problems, one thing that you can work at doing, and this is one reason for focusing on spine and shoulder when doing side plank. If you make your spine long, so your rib cage opens, that gives your shoulder a stable foundation. If from there you can adjust the positioning of the shoulder, place a hand on the floor, and then lift. And actually that might be a better idea. It's a bit harder to do with bottom leg plank. What you could do, make the spine long with the hand lifted, then adjust the shoulder position, then put the hand on the floor, keeping the shoulder feeling strong and the spine long. And then from there, lift the hips. Shift the hips forward, foot strong, then lift the foot. So that might be a recommendation to something that you can play with if you're having wrist problems, is set up the shoulder rib cage prior to putting weight on the hand. Then you can make some adjustments to the hand positioning prior to putting weight on it so that your hand is ready. Then once you get used to that, then you can start from the weaker position with the hand on the floor, lengthening using your shoulder. But anyway, that's, don't forget to smile. Anyway, that's one suggestion for side plank, for a series of side plank exercises. Have some fun with it. Next, what I'll be talking about, because I wanted to look at simple ways that you can deal with knee problems, and that includes a focus on the belly. But more on that later. Thank you very much for watching, and if you like it, please do share. Anyway, namaste.